Hello, my name is Jason Williams, CEO for the Society of Innovators at Purdue Northwest, and welcome to the Spark Series, where we ignite conversations with innovators, entrepreneurs, and changemakers creating real impact. Our goal is to spark ideas, share journeys, and inspire action. I'm excited to welcome today's guest, Emily Edwards. She's the founder of Paradise Spreads, a plant-based, allergen-friendly food brand that began in her home kitchen and has grown into a regional success story. A former mental health professional, Emily combined her love of baking with a desire to create inclusive, nutritious treats that bring people together. In this conversation, we're going to explore her transition from social work to entrepreneurship, what it takes to build a consumer brand from scratch, and how she stays grounded in mission and joy. Emily, welcome. Let's spread some paradise.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, so first, I would just love to hear, take us back. What was your very first job? Do you remember what that was, and what did it teach you?
My mom worked for a company called Garin, and they made those little Garanimal clothing with the Garanimal on there. That was my very first summer job that I had as a teenager.
And Garanimal, that's where you match the alligator and the alligator, right? You match the tops and the bottoms with Garanimals.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I worked on an assembly line. Okay. So as far as putting a little logo on there and going down the assembly line, I remember it being very hot in there and very tedious. And I think that's when I made up my mind that I did not want to work in a factory.
And then fast forward, we're gonna work backwards there. We'll talk about your journey in a minute, but we're here to talk to you because of Paradise Spreads and this food brand you've built. And I see a couple different flavors here in front of us. How many, what does the catalog look like, and what's your favorite Paradise Spread flavor right now?
So we have 6 SKUs, and we have 3 flavors: caramel, sea salt, vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. We have our 9-ounce jars, and then we have what's called Paradise Packs. What you see here is now Paradise Snack Packs, but we rebranded. So it's a new look. Hopefully we'll be rolling that out later on in the next couple of weeks. But it is Paradise Packs, and that will contain a 1-ounce part of the Paradise Spreads along with gluten-free pretzels. My favorite is caramel, sea salt, vanilla. Anything with vanilla in it, I totally love. So this is the vanilla that draws me to the caramel, sea salt, vanilla. And it's just that warm feeling. You really do feel like you're in paradise when you're eating it.
Perfect. And so let's talk about the business. So, how did you launch Paradise Spreads? What got this all started?
Well, I grew up in Mississippi, and my mom was a baker, so I spent a lot of time in the kitchen with her. I called it her gathering place, and that's where I first learned about sweets and food and how it brought people together. And so that was my first experience with food and baking and just seeing my mom, how much she enjoyed it. And so fast forward, I owned a mental health practice and was totally burned out and decided, you know what? I still want to help people, but I don't want to sit behind a desk anymore and hear about what's in their head. And from working with children, I realized that a lot of children, their behaviors really wasn't just behavior by itself, but a lot of it stemmed from the foods that we eat. So I wanted to recreate the nostalgia that I had as a child, particularly children with food allergies or gut issues. And so I started playing around in my kitchen with Paradise. And I did that for about a year, gave out samples, got feedback. I knew I wanted to take this product to market. And so what did I need to do? I knew I needed a food scientist. So Purdue Food Science Lab in Lafayette, Indiana, boiler up, had that. So I reached out to them, and I spent a year and a half in product development. They literally have a manufacturing plant inside of there. And so you get to go through all the phases of product development, understanding how ingredients work together, and most of all, food safety.
Talk a little bit about your previous work and that decision to say, look, there's something here to Paradise, so I'm going to go all in. And my understanding is you sold a private practice and then spent about 18 months working with Purdue.
So the private practice, it was named after my mom, Genoa Services, and I ran that for about 15 years. My background, I have a master's degree in social work from Indiana University Northwest, and my specialty was working with children with PTSD. I also work with the severely mentally ill, schizophrenia, or any of those Axis 1 diagnoses. But I had a particular interest in children with PTSD or any kind of behavioral problems. And I did a lot of play therapy with children. And so that's when I really started to discover that we in this country, we eat a lot of fast food and we buy a lot of packaged goods, and you don't always get to control what's in there. And so I would work with a lot of parents with diet before assigning a diagnosis. And I thought a lot of kids liked Nutella and peanut butter, but they couldn't eat it. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, what can I do to help these children that they still can enjoy these sweet treats and parents don't have to worry about their kids going off the table or acting all out, and they can still enjoy those treats and not exacerbate their allergies. So I started working with that in my kitchen. I went out and bought every kind of plant protein that was on the market. And so I spent about a year in my kitchen just playing around with recipes.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. Obviously, amazing work in your past, but it sounds like there was a great transition to continue to invest in children and families now through food. I guess early on, being a food product, you needed to get the recipe right, working with the food scientists at the university. But I guess even early on, kind of what was your why? Or was there a moment that said, man, I'm really onto something. I need to invest in this?
I think my why was that I still wanted to help children. That's always been my particular interest, but from that food aspect. And let me just say this. I wanted to transition, and I landed in food because that was the second thing that I knew that I loved is cooking. But looking back, I didn't know all the ins and outs of food. So it was a lot of research and a lot of guessing on my part. I didn't know that I could have paid somebody to do product development. I didn't know I needed to do customer discovery first before I just came up with this product. When you go in the grocery store, you see the product. You don't understand the process.
Right.
I got to learn the process.
Yeah, so certainly a lot of trial and error and learning along the way. But, allergens are especially a big challenge in food. So talk about that a little bit, not just how you really tested and tweaked some of the recipes, but then what does that process look like to make sure that it is meeting the standards, that it is safe and delicious relative to the allergen standards that you're trying to match?
So when you're reaching out to vendors to purchase your products, because at first I was buying all my products from the grocery store. So then I thought, okay, how do I get more ingredients? How do I bulk up without breaking the bank? And so what I would do is I would go to the store and buy the product I was using, look on the side to see who manufactured it, and then call them. And so what I would say to them, I said, listen here, I'm new to this world. I'm coming from social work. I can process things. I can analyze stuff. But some of these terms and some of the things you're asking me, I just don't understand. So if you could just give me a brief synopsis of it, I'll get it. And that's how I started to build relationships with all of my vendors that I was working with. And so they ask you about your application, and then I would tell them my application was a spread, a plant-based spread. I wanted it to be organic, and I wanted it to be allergen-free. Okay. And from there, they would recommend which products I should use.
Thank you for sharing that. It's certainly helpful to understand, for other food entrepreneurs that they may be listening. As you're now growing this company, right? It's one thing to start out with, a good cause, and this is really, I'm passionate about this culture of the company and giving back, but you're growing. So how do you continue to embed, some of those pillars into a growing company?
Authenticity remains the forefront of my brand. No matter where I am, at this point, I am the brand. And so no matter where I go or where I am, I always want my personality and the authenticity to shine through. Yeah. Like yesterday, I was at an event and I had to pitch. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, just be who you are. You go in, you tell the story, and people resonate with that. They resonate with the authenticity. This is why I did this. This is why I continue. I think for me, it's just remaining authentic to who I am, regardless of how big the brand gets.
Now kind of in the nuts and bolts of a business, how do you approach kind of choosing how and where to sell your products?
The brand is I would call it a boutique. It's a specialty brand. And so knowing their demographics, where are my customers at? Where are my consumers going to more likely land at? Like you would be my consumer. You have kids. So you look at that. You look at your demographics. You also look at the grocery stores, like where does that grocery, who do they cater to? So you start to look at the data on that grocery store, who shops there. for being local, you want to look at, do they support local brands as well? Do they support emerging brands, small brands? Do they support women-owned brands?
Yeah.
So you look at all of that, but I think it comes down to the demographics more and what does that grocery store support.
How have you, is this what we might call a scaling, startup now versus a launch? But as this company continues to scale and grow, how are you managing that? Obviously, there's now demand for more ingredients, more production. You're dealing with more customers, larger quantities that you're potentially, selling to some of these regional grocery chains. What does that look like? How are you managing the growth of your business?
Well, we have a co-packer now, so that's off of me because I was in a commercial kitchen. So we moved to a co-packer in December of last year. And then I have a couple of 1099s that work for me. I also have a co-founder. And then I have some other people that are volunteering to help for me. We've also been actively looking to try to raise venture capital to continue to expand the team because we really do need a broker and we need a full-time salesperson and probably a marketing person as well. And so just really strategically looking, okay, we can afford to do this. We can't afford to do this. What do I do? How do I learn to utilize some tools that are available to really free up some of my time to focus on sales and building partnerships?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, a lot there. I just want to touch on one. You mentioned co-packing, and I guess specifically for any aspiring food entrepreneurs, kind of break that down. What exactly is a co-packer?
So a co-packer is a company that manufactures your product. So they will take your product, take your formula, they will make it. You do a trial run, they'll make that for you. They'll package it, store it in their warehouse, and then when you get orders, they will ship them out, whether it be from B2C or B2B. And then if it's a big order for a grocery store, you have what's called a distributor. Distributor is the middleman. They buy the product from you and then they sell it to the grocery store. And so for us, when I get a big order, pallet size, B Nutty does all of the work, packages it. The distributor picks it up, takes it to their warehouse and distributes it to the grocery stores. So when you go in grocery stores, if you ever see those big trucks in the back pull it in, that is typically a distributor bringing it in. And they don't just pick up for one brand, they pick up for multiple brands and they bring it in, store it in the warehouse in the grocery store, and then someone from the grocery store puts it out on the shelves.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. That's really helpful to understand. And again, we've kind of alluded to the fact that the food business is a competitive industry, and especially in the packaged goods. And as a female founder of color, or even more so, challenging to break into an industry, what advice would you share with other young women that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs and especially, aspiring to get into a packaged goods type business?
This field, what I've noticed, is often dominated by probably the middle-aged white male. That's kind of what I've seen across the board in the buying positions, broker, you just kind of see it across the board. And so I would say definitely focus on building relationships. Don't be afraid to ask questions and definitely be coachable. And so don't be afraid of criticism. If you don't understand something, ask the question. For women of color, I would say we definitely need to focus more on sticking together. Don't be afraid to share ideas as well. I went to 2 events in the last 2 weeks, and women of color, yesterday it was 2 of us. Last week, it was out of a room, probably about 500 people. It was maybe 15 of us. Yeah. And so you start to see that, and I don't know if it's, I don't think it's intentional. I just think sometimes we are afraid to step out and try new things because the field is so saturated. But I say to people, you have to walk in the room like you own it. You have to have that much confidence. Go to events, show up for events. I don't care if you're the only person in the room. Show up, ask questions, take samples, talk to people, ask them, what would you do different? What can I do? Can you introduce me to this person? Introductions are always great to have. And so I would just say, as women, I think sometimes we're so hard on ourselves that we sometimes just say, I'm not going to do it. But go, take a step, don't be afraid, and just continue to just strive for what you want.
A really final question I have is, thinking back, going back to young Emily, learning that she doesn't want to work on a factory line. But what advice would you give your younger self now?
I would have started entrepreneurship, my journey, a lot earlier in life. I don't know if, nothing against college. I enjoyed my experience, but I don't know if I would have taken the going to college route. I think I would have just gone straight into entrepreneurship. And I definitely would have told myself to be more disciplined early on in life rather than later on in life.
Yeah, perfect. And then where can we, obviously, this is a growing brand. We know it's out on shelves. Like, where can we find and learn more about Paradise Spreads?
So you can go to my website. It's www.spreadparadise.com. We're on all the social media channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. We're on TikTok as well. And in the stores, you can find us at Strachan Van Til, and you can also find us at Pete's Fresh Market in Chicago. And then in February of 2026, you can find us at Meyer Grocery Stores in Indiana, here in probably local, and then in Indianapolis. But stay tuned on our web pages and also on our social media to find out the locations.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. And yeah, you're going to have to go on and get your own Paradise Spreads, because I'm going to spread this to my own kitchen on some graham crackers and some sweet potatoes. But Emily, thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for having me.